Elon Musk versus the man. The billionaire ordered to testify in the SEC's probe into his purchase of Twitter. This all as a Delaware judge axed his $56 billion Tesla pay package. But he's not the only business leader fighting Delaware. Big shareholders are bumping heads with the state, so Nevada and Texas are wooing them to reincorporate there. I'm pleased to say joining us now, O'Leary Ventures chairman Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, should businesses seriously be looking at incorporating in Nevada or Texas over the long-standing, traditionally thought Delaware?
Absolutely. This changed everything as far as I'm concerned. The traditional place to incorporate was always Delaware because of stable policy. We never had cases like this that questioned the will of directors or compensation of audit committees. And all of a sudden, this ruling changes everything. It takes Delaware from the winner state column to the loser state column. Other loser states like New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Michigan, California, those are loser states where you avoid putting money to work or doing anything corporately because their policy is very unstable. I would have never thought this would happen in Delaware, but I would never today incorporate in Delaware. I'm assuming the Supreme Court there will overturn this decision ASAP, because everybody's looking at this saying, what was that? That was just right out of nowhere and really casts a pall on how unstable that state policy is now.
Kevin, as a Minnesotan, I hate to hear my state on your loser list, but I actually can't disagree with you. I think you're exactly right on that.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about another CEO, major business owner, besides Mr. Wonderful of Shark Tank, that is speaking out about the clear and obvious political persecution that is happening of business owners who do not agree with the establishment, okay, who do not go along with the agenda of the Democrat Party. And it's not only Trump that they're going after, okay? We all know what happened with Trump in New York with the $350+ million civil fraud judgment that was issued against Trump for allegedly inflating the value of his real estate holdings, even though nobody was harmed. There was no victim. The banks got paid back. But, you know, Attorney General Letitia James ran for office in 2018 on the promise that she would target Trump, okay? And what she's essentially doing is making a political statement. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that Trump is being fined way more money than anybody else would be fined for this type of infraction, okay? An infraction that essentially every real estate investor is guilty of, or probably has been guilty of at some point, because anybody in business is trying to get favorable terms for the value of their assets when you're talking about financing, when you're talking about getting loans, when you're talking about getting investments. Of course, you're going to try to paint the best picture of your company and the assets that you have. However, everybody knows in business that it's really up to the banks or the investors that are looking to invest into a business or to loan money to a business to look into the finances and to validate whether or not somebody's stated assets or their holdings are actually worth what they say that they're worth. And in Trump's case, businesses looked into what Trump's assets were worth, and they determined that, hey, you know what? Based off our own due diligence, we are going to give Trump a loan based off these terms. The banks got paid back. Trump made money. The banks made money. Everybody's happy, but Trump is being punished for it. This is clear and obvious political persecution. And it's not just happening to Trump. It's also happening to Mr. Elon Musk, who we all know the left hates because he believes in free speech. The day that he decided to buy Twitter and make it a free speech platform, he has been public enemy number 2 after former President Donald Trump, okay? And lately, Elon Musk has been raging against Delaware because Delaware has decided to essentially issue an unprecedented ruling in which they have decided that, hey, Elon Musk is getting compensated too much when it comes to his compensation plan that was approved by 80% of the company's shareholders. However, after a lawsuit was brought against Elon Musk by a shareholder who only held 9 shares of Tesla in 2018 over this compensation plan, supposedly injuring him, the powers that be in Delaware decided that, hey, you know what? We're going to block this payout of $56 billion for Elon Musk because we have decided to overrule the shareholders of Tesla, even though Elon Musk met all of the performance benchmarks needed to be compensated based off an agreement that the company shareholders agreed to. So again, you have some state official overriding the shareholders of a private company. Again, this is unprecedented stuff. This is straight up communism, right? This is the type of stuff that you see in China, right? Happening in the United States of America. And the CEO of Palantir, which is a tech company, is speaking out on CNN about what's happening to Trump and Elon Musk and how it is scaring the business community, even those who don't like Trump, that hate Trump. They're scared, right? They're afraid of what they're seeing happening to their political opponents because they understand that, hey, this could happen to us if we fall out of line, okay? So I want to react to this video of this guy schooling this CNN anchor on this situation. But before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Have you guys taken a good look at the banks lately? Now, on the surface, everything may seem fine, but there's a whole lot more going on underneath. It's like looking under the hood of a car and finding a mess of broken wires and parts. The parts are loans for homes, cars, and the credit cards that we use. They're all hitting record highs. It's really scary when you think about it. Why risk your money for a tiny 5% when things are so shaky? This is where Noble Gold can help. They're like that friend that knows all about how to keep money safe. They suggest gold and silver, oldies but goodies in the finance world. Plus, they've got a sweet deal, a 1/4 ounce gold standard coin this month if you qualify. That sounds pretty cool, right? If you're curious, just give them a call at 877-646-5347. That is 877-646-5347. And don't worry, it's just a chat, no pressure. They will help you figure out if gold and silver are right for you. Or you can visit noblegoldinvestments.com and take the first step towards a safer, more secure financial future. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment and there's no guarantee of any kind.
Co-authored this Wall Street Journal op-ed with Jeb Bush under the heading Elon Musk and Donald Trump cases imperil the rule of law. Joining me now is co-founder of Palantir and managing partner of 8VC, Joe Lonsdale. Joe, thank you for being here. I'm curious, your co-author, Jeb Bush, no fan of Donald Trump. Why did he feel compelled to weigh in on this?
You know, Michael, I've never given Donald Trump a cent either. I love America. I've built a lot of businesses in this country. I love building, I love investing here. And this is very scary. I see the government weaponized against my friend Elon Musk. And listen, I don't love Donald Trump, but I was just with a bunch of my business friends who don't love him either. And all of them thanked me for writing this. They said, Joe, this is scary. What they're telling me is that if I speak up, if I run for office, they're going to come and they're going to find a huge way to penalize me for something that's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, everyone knows Donald Trump probably didn't do this perfectly, but they know that dozens of others didn't either. And it's obvious he's being penalized an insane amount of money because he's Donald Trump. And that's not how America is supposed to work.
Ding, 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 ding. And this is something I've been telling you guys. I've been saying this since I started covering this silver fraud case against Trump, is that this is a message to anybody that's rich enough to run for president who doesn't need the campaign finance system that the politicians, the prostitutes use in order to get elected. Okay, is that, well, if you run and you decide to step out of line, we're going to punish you monetarily, right? We're going to try to bankrupt your businesses. Okay, we're going to take away your money if you step out of line with the establishment, because the way that politicians are controlled, okay, is through the current campaign finance system that we have, in the sense that these politicians sell their souls, right? They sell themselves to the establishment, to big corporations for big money, big campaign money in order to run. And in exchange, they have to make sure that they fall in line with the establishment agenda. Okay, this is how they stay in line. Again, these politicians, this is kind of why I don't respect a lot of them. They don't have any real skills outside of being politicians, which, you know, the main thing about being a politician is being a slick talker. And that's it, right? Because all it takes in order to get people to vote for you is to be a slick talker. And all it takes in order to raise money is to be a slick talker, right? You don't actually really have to build anything, okay? I mean, I guess you need to know the law, but I'm talking about in terms of getting elected, Okay. Yeah, you got to be a slick talker. Okay. So a lot of these politicians don't have any real skills. They never really built anything. Because of that, they are reliant on donations, outside funding. And again, I get it. Everybody can't be a billionaire in order to get elected. And that's what keeps them in line. Okay. This is why they can't stand up to the establishment. This is why they can't come out and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be funding all of these wars overseas, right? Because they're being funded by the same military industrial complex that benefits from these wars that are waged overseas, that are sanctioned by these politicians, okay? Because we spend billions, if not trillions of taxpayer money fighting wars overseas. The military industrial complex, the defense contractors get paid, and then they give kickbacks to the politicians in the form of campaign donations, and that's how the cycle works, okay? That's how these politicians survive, okay? And somebody like Trump, he is outside of that system, right? He's not dependent on these massive campaign donations because he's rich enough to fund himself, right? And he's also famous enough to where, again, he doesn't need to pay for a ton of campaign advertising because everybody knows Trump, right? And Trump's getting free media attention because of the fact that the media is obsessed with him, okay? So what they're doing here in this ruling towards Trump, the reason why it's so outlandish, the reason why it's so crazy is because it is meant to serve as a message. It's meant to serve as a warning that, hey, if you are a billionaire and you're looking to get into politics, and of course, you know, you don't need the traditional financing system that most of these politicians need in order to stay in line. If you happen to fall out of line, this is what's going to happen to you, right? And all of these business owners are seeing the writing on the wall and they're saying, look, this could happen to me if I decide to run for office and I don't go along with the establishment agenda. This is what they're going to do to me, right? So a lot of these business owners are afraid, right? They're scared, okay? And they should be, because that's what this ruling is about. That's the type of message that is being sent here, okay? And everybody knows that's what's happening.
Okay, you know the arguments in opposition to this being quote unquote victimless. The idea is that he inflated his value, therefore was given preferential interest rates. Even if he repaid them, he took advantage of those banks. You would say what to that?
I would say that there's no one else in this country who would ever be fined even $50 million for this. And finding him $400 million for this or whatever it is clearly because she's trying to get Donald Trump. And it's the same thing with what's happening to Elon right now. It's activist judges who are saying, if you speak up, if you're a target of our political party, of our ideology. I mean, Elon has the DOJ going after him. He has the Labor Department going after him. He has these fish and wildlife people delaying things for months for silly reasons, making him write book reports, you know, to them. And the whole system right now is being weaponized, and it's scary and it's wrong. This is what happens in emerging markets. It's not what happens in great countries like America.
Yeah, again, we're becoming a third world country in many ways, right? Not just when it comes to what's happening at our border and who we're allowing into this country. We're also becoming that when it comes to our political system. What you're seeing in regards to the clear and overt political persecution of people who don't go along with the establishment agenda is third world type of stuff. Again, this is banana republic type of stuff. This is type of stuff that we used to teach kids in school that, hey, we don't want our country to be like this, right? We used to look down on countries that do stuff like this, right? Like we always talk about what's going on in Russia and looking down on what Putin does to his political opponents. While here in the United States, we have these same things happening here and we're ignoring it and trying to pretend like this is democracy. Again, it's shameful and it's hypocritical, and anybody paying attention knows exactly what's going on. But these banks were not taken advantage of because these banks have all the resources to do their own due diligence to figure out whether or not anybody really is a suitable client to work with. And they work with Trump and they got paid back. They made money. Trump made money. There's no harm here, right? So again, what's happening is absolutely insane.
And we need it to stop.
So I read aloud from Judge Engoron's opinion on this issue that you and I are now discussing. Were there real victims? And he says it doesn't wash if you say, well, everybody does it, and why is this guy getting singled out? One of the things that the judge made clear in his opinion is that it kind of necessitates baking into these type of calculations and negotiations the fraud factor. And that if someone like Trump gets reined in, it makes it a more equitable system for everyone who follows. How about that argument?
Michael, it's so you have something that it's like everyone's driving over the speed limit in a communist country like China. everyone's always guilty of breaking the law. In America, at some point, we have a million regulations. I don't think Trump necessarily handled this perfectly. It's not a $400 million fine. It's like basically what happens in these countries when you have a regime take over that's going after its enemies is you weaponize it and you penalize people in ridiculous ways. This is an obvious example of that. This is why it's scary to my friends who do business who don't even like Trump, because it's a $400 million fine for something where there's no victims is obviously a weaponization of government, and everyone knows on its face. And again, these are my friends. A lot of them send me emails screaming about Trump. They sound like Bob Costas just does, who was just on. They hate him, but they're in business, and they know that penalizing that much in business is clearly weaponization. And so to me, seeing this is not just against Trump, it's against all these other people. It's not how the country is supposed to work.
Okay, let me try one more time. This is now my third argument trying to play devil's advocate with you, because you said something about driving. There's a law professor named Oren Kerr, and he used a driving analogy. He said it's like if you're driving drunk and you don't hurt anybody, but you were still driving drunk, you got to get punished because the next time you might hurt somebody. How about that?
I think driving drunk kills a lot of people and is a horrible thing, and this thing is not equivalent to something that's a horrible thing that kills a lot of people. You know, the governor of New York, even on the left, made it clear that this is something that was specifically because it was Donald Trump. And it's if you want to penalize him a little bit for this, to kind of like slap his hand because he's Donald Trump, and just show others as an example, that would be one thing. If you find him $20 million, I would have said, oh, that's kind of ridiculous, but I wouldn't have written the piece. But if you try to find someone enough to hurt him, to punish him, that's just not how this is supposed to work with a victimless crime.
Joe, I'm playing devil's advocate with you because here last week I said it would have had more credibility if it were $11 million. The fact that it was 355 just made it incredible, frankly, and well, enough.
Yeah. So again, even the CNN propagandist knows that, yeah, this is over the top. But in reference to his analogy, when it comes to drunk driving, I think a more accurate and detailed kind of explanation of that analogy would be, well, in this case, they actually find Trump as if he killed somebody, right? If they want to use the drunk driving analogy, they can say, well, Trump was driving drunk and he killed somebody, right? And they're finding him as if he killed somebody, except he didn't because the banks weren't hurt. Nobody was hurt. There was no victim. Okay, so essentially what you have here is you have somebody that is getting caught drunk driving, but again, being punished as if they actually killed somebody when they didn't, right? When all of the other drunk drivers, they don't punish them like that. They only punish them for what they did, which is to drive drunk, right? So again, I think that's probably a more accurate analysis. And, I think that it's fascinating that you have these business leaders, even those who aren't necessarily pro-Trump. Like, I don't think Kevin O'Leary is necessarily pro-Trump. I think he's just pro-business, right? And whoever that is, that's who he's pro or whatever. Just like this guy, right? I think that's kind of how a lot of business people work. It's like, hey, I might not necessarily like you as a person, but I'm just pro-business. And they even feel compelled to speak out about this and say, this is bad for business, right? So what you're going to see here is that this is just going to help fuel the exodus of businesses from these blue states that already have unfavorable business environments, tax conditions that have already triggered a lot of these businesses to leave these states anyways. And the political persecution is going to make it even worse, because now a lot of these businesses are going to realize that, hey, not only am I subject to higher taxes, a higher regulatory environment by operating in a blue state, right? Also crime as well, too. You have that risk. But I'm also now subject to political risk in the sense that if I operate in a blue state, I need to make sure that I'm on the right side of the political aisle, or else I'm going to be subject to some type of political persecution if I fall out of line. And that is an extra risk that a lot of business owners, venture capitalists, entrepreneurs aren't going to want to take, and that's going to drive them to move to red states. Like Elon Musk apparently is moving his business from Delaware to Texas because of the Delaware situation, the ruling there. And you're going to see a whole lot more of that, right? Especially, again, if you're a business owner that, is more right-leaning, okay, or more even centrist, or, you have some anti-establishment viewpoints. That's going to drive a lot of those business owners to more safer and favorable environments, not only for business, but when it comes to political risk as well, too. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.